Hey there, everyone. Lauren Rilling here with another episode of Simple Business Stewardship. And today, what we're talking about is how to know if you have the right expenses for your business. What do you do when you're looking at your profit margins? We're all kind of feeling it that our profit margins are being squeezed because of inflation. So we're experiencing that both from a consumer side and in our businesses. We are having to make really tough decisions sometimes about what to spend money on and what not to spend money on. And when the money is flowing and when the government is printing lots of money and it's cheap to borrow and the economy is great, there's this willingness to sort of spend a little bit less cautiously. And now people are being really frugal, and you might be in the same spot. So what I want to share with you today is, from a fractional CFO perspective, what kind of a process do we use for making decisions about what belongs in our operating budget and what doesn't? How can you have that wisdom when it comes to approaching your business expenses? And so I want to give you a few really simple tools to evaluate these decisions so that you can move forward more confidently in your business and really improve both your profit margins and drive revenue in your company at the same time. I'll give you a quick example in my own business. And I do this little audit a couple of times a year where I will take a look at, okay, what am I really spending my money on? Like, it's one thing to sort of track your expenses and just sort of take a big picture look at what's going on in your business. But I will go through my business expenses a few times a year with a fine-tooth comb and look at every single line item on there. And my business is small, so like I'm a solopreneur, so I don't have like this huge list, right? And I'm service-based, so it doesn't take that long, but I will go through it and say, okay, do I really need that subscription? Is that cost really providing the ROI that I thought it was going to? And what I often find is that I'm able to save 10% or more just by going through this exercise. And the great thing about cutting expenses is that when you reduce an expense, like if you even if it's just $10 a month, I know that sounds like pennies, especially if your company, is 6 or 7 figures, right? But I mean, if you could choose to keep a $10 expense in your business, that's $120 a year, that isn't serving you, you're just spending money on it and it's just going to waste. Or you could have $120 in your hand and go buy yourself something nice. Which would you rather have, right? So there's no expense that's too small to do something about it. And oftentimes it's these little ones that add up, and not all of them are $10, but it was just to make the point that no expense is too small to pay attention to and to make a decision about whether it stays or goes. So I did this for my business just the other day, and there were things that I have purchased in the last 6 to 12 months that I realized, ooh, I am really not getting the ROI I thought I would be on this. So how do I make this decision? Well, I read a book called Double Your Profits by Bob Pfeiffer, and he just writes in a way that is kind of brutal. He's very pragmatic, but he speaks the truth, and he outlines it in a really clear way. And he says, look, you've got to ask yourself these questions. Is this expense necessary to producing more revenue, or does it add more profit to my bottom line? And if you think the answer is yes, here's the real key. If you think the answer is yes, then what you have to do is answer how. This question is so key. If you can't answer and explain to someone else how this particular line item in your budget is helping you drive revenue or profit in your business, then you should strongly consider getting rid of it. Here's the reason for that. Every financial decision that we actually make from the emotional side of our brain. We think we're so logical. We think we are so rational, right? We actually make our final decision with our emotions when it comes to spending money, whether you're talking in your personal life or in business. And then after the fact, after we've spent the money, then our brain wants us to feel good about the decision. So then we start rationalizing it with logic. But of course, then we're being very biased, right? And so by forcing ourselves to go through this process of answering the question, not only the first step of, do I really believe that this expense adds to my revenue or profit? But then having to make yourself explain how, that you can't answer that emotionally. That sort of disrupts the emotional decision-making process. And it gives you that next step of, okay, I think it does, but when I actually get down to the bottom of it, maybe I'm not so sure anymore. And what Bob Pfeiffer says, he says, just cut it. I say strongly consider it. And if you can't identify how, can someone on your team identify how and explain it to you? Because maybe if you've got a team, maybe there's a software that they use that you don't use and you don't quite understand it. So you might go to them and say, hey, share with me how this helps you be more efficient. Or do you like this software? Should we keep it or should we look at something else that might be more cost effective? How valuable is it to you? How do you think it helps you to accomplish your goals, and accomplish, to actually do your job? Do you need this? What would happen if we got rid of it? That's another great question. Okay, let's imagine the future without this. If we just didn't have this tool or this product, or we didn't purchase this thing, what would happen? Would the sky fall down? Probably not, right? If you know how it would actually hurt your business or hurt your ability to be able to do your job, then that's one thing. But if you go, yeah, it's kind of nice to have, I guess, or it makes this one thing kind of like look a little prettier, well, okay, great. Is this a nice to have or is this a need? And if it's a nice to have, then you really have to look at your profit margins and whether you are in the position to afford the nice to have, or is the nice to have really worth it to you? And if it isn't, then just get rid of it. And here's the thing with expenses. You can always buy it again. So when in doubt, try cutting it and see how you do without it. And then if you need it again, then great, then bring it back. But when in doubt, don't hold on to it for longer than necessary. Or if you're really on the fence, then give it like one more quarter. Say, okay, we're willing to, maybe we haven't been using this CRM for that long. And so we're going to give it a certain amount of time because there's a learning curve. It takes time to get used to, right? That's all perfectly reasonable, but put a time frame around it so that it doesn't become one of those things that's just sort of in the background. And you look up one day and you're like, why did we spend $20,000 on this? When we really didn't need it, it really didn't help us. So put a time frame around it, identify what are those criteria going to be for keeping that expense in your operating budget. And then a second thing that I would say is really important is to know, what are your profit margins? I talk about this all the time. So if you are a regular listener, if you're getting bored of hearing me say this, you're like, yes, Lauren, we know. Good. I'm glad, because I cannot emphasize this enough. You've got to know what your profit margins are. That means you have to know what percentage of your revenue is being taken up by operating expenses. And there are some great guidelines. Every industry is going to be different. Every business is going to be different. But if you need a starting point, I think especially if your business is operating under 1 million, I really do love the profit first percentages. You can Google profit first percentages and a little table will pop up. But if your business is operating at, or your revenue is under $250,000 a year, 30%. 30% of your revenue can go to operating expenses because you still need money for taxes. You need money to pay yourself, and you need money for retained earnings because you are going to want a financial cushion. You're going to want to have an emergency fund. You're going to want to be able to experiment and try things and have some wiggle room so that way you're not just operating month to month, hoping you survive to the next month. Like, we do not want to be in survival mode. And the best way to not be in survival mode is to be in control of your profit margins, or at least to control what is within your control when it comes to your profit margins, and to know what targets you need to hit and what targets you're aiming for to do the things that you want to do in your business, and to be able to have the kind of income that you want to have as the owner of your company. So a really simple exercise that you can do is to go through your list of expenses and to just note, is this a strategic expense or not? If it's strategic, that means that you're actually making money from it. It's helping you to make more money, or it is helping you to be more profitable. Thanks, Harold, and welcome, Andrew. Great to see you both today. If you can identify, again, how it is helping you to be more profitable or to make more money, then great, put an S by it. If it's not, put a question mark by it. And then when you've gone through all of those, add up how much money those question marks are costing you. So if we got rid of all of those, how would that affect our profit? And I'm not saying you have to get rid of all the question marks, but do an evaluation of each of them. Sometimes from an emotional standpoint, we are hoping for future results, even though it's really not serving us. I mean, I just had to do this process. I think I mentioned, and guess what? I'm cutting my expenses by 20%. And some of that savings I will keep in my business, but and this is on just like monthly recurring revenue. But some of that money, I'm going to go, okay, I have other priorities, and I can get rid of some of these expenses that I thought were going to be strategic and they're really not. And I'm going to come up with, I have much more cost-effective options that will serve my business goals a lot better. And what I can do then is I can decide, is it more important for me to have the cash right now? And that might be the case for you. Maybe cash flow is a challenge and like you just need to save some money. Or do I really need to reinvest that money in a different way to grow my business even more? So if you have the cash flow available, where it makes sense for you to just simply redirect those dollars, then go ahead and do that. If you can identify a better way to use those funds, then put the money toward that better use, and so that you have more money that you're spending on strategic expenses and less that you're spending on non-strategic expenses. And again, if you're not sure, hey, it's okay to try things, but put a time frame around that. That way, if you have a process, if you have quarterly or twice a year, we're going to go through our budget and we're going to make some adjustments. We're going to see what's working and what's not working. That way, you don't go through 6 or 9 months or a year going, oh gosh, we really should have gotten rid of this a long time ago, right? But as entrepreneurs, looking at our expenses, that typically ends up being last on the priority list, when really, if it moves to the top of your priority list for things to do, for actions to take, then you can really get your full strategy. You really can't execute a strategy effectively if the fuel for that strategy is suboptimal. I don't know much about cars, so I'm not going to go any farther with that analogy. But if you are a car person and you know how fuel works and oil and all that stuff, please share. Please enlighten the rest of us. But the point is, you need to be able to fuel your strategy, and you need to make sure that your finances are aligned so that you can grow and thrive in this year. And 2023, economic, gosh, the words, the adjectives that I keep hearing, it's not pleasant. It's stuff like murky. Murky is not a good thing. It's not good if you're scuba diving, right? Because you don't know which way to go. Same thing with business. Murky is not good. We want clarity. We want the path forward to be really clear. And in order for that to happen, you've got to know what's going on with your finances, and you have to be even more intentional than ever about directing those dollars. So, to recap, go through your expenses, identify what's truly strategic and what's not. Look at how you could improve your profit margins by either getting rid of those non-strategic expenses or by redirecting them into strategic expenses. I'll leave you with one more example. This is a case study of a real client, and we took a look at her expenses, and they were about, we really needed to get them down overall. But what we were able to do was we identified about $1,400 a month of just like random stuff that, she just needed to like cancel and get rid of, and, kind of just clean that up. So then we said, okay, what's the best way to use this savings? And for her, time was another big issue, like wearing all the hats, really needed, she had some outsourced services like that was good, but she just was spending too much time on administrative details, and that was really hindering her from doing the revenue generating activities that needed to be done. So we took that $1,400, and instead of saying, let's just cut the budget, she was actually able to redirect that $1,400 a month or $1,500 a month into hiring a part-time executive assistant. And because of that, that saved her 10 hours a week. So she was able to take that 10 hours that she had been spending on administrative work, delegate that to someone who was awesome at administrative work and was actually able to basically bring in enough value to the company where she was paying for herself just by being there because she was so awesome at what she did and was able to streamline certain processes and make certain things more efficient. So that was a big plus. But on top of that, what it did was it allowed my client to redirect those 10 hours a week to revenue generating activities. And that resulted in an extra $14,000 a month in revenue without having to add any other expenses. So that was purely profitable. So that is the power of looking at your expenses carefully. And that is what it means to be strategic with your expenses. All right, I hope this has been helpful to you today. Here's the deal, you guys. We cover all of this and a lot more in Entrepreneurs Profit Playbook. That is my brand new course for entrepreneurs whose revenue is under $500,000 a year. Like very specifically, if your revenue is under $500,000 a year, like really anywhere between, the principles apply even if it's day one of your business, but I would say you're going to get the most value out of it if your business is making anywhere between $30,000 a year and $500,000 a year. And so we talk about how to make sure that you're spending your money on the right things and really get that solid operating budget in place. We talk about how to set goals, the difference between your gross and net margins, how to drive those profit margins. We talk about how to make sure taxes are not a stress point for you. We talk about cash flow and getting your cash flow working for you, so you're not like looking at your bank account going, oh gosh, how much money do I have in my bank account? Can I afford, this one thing? Don't make decisions based on what's in your bank account. You should be we want your cash flow to be elevated. We don't want that to be a stress point for you. We talk about how to give yourself pay raises and how to pay yourself consistently, but then also be on track to being able to give yourself a raise. How to know when it's time to hire somebody and to be really confident in that decision as you grow your company. Even talking about the gems, like I talk about reading your financial statements like mining for gems, because it doesn't seem very obvious that our financial reports, your profit loss and your balance sheet, it doesn't seem like those would be very valuable, right? Most business owners wait until April to go, oh gosh, I guess I need to get this together for my tax preparer. And then what happens is it's not always 100% accurate, but the tax preparer just takes it, and based on the numbers that you give them, that's what they're going to do. And so the thing though is that there is so much great information that you can use to drive your strategy and to make course corrections throughout the year when you are paying attention to certain key specific numbers in your profit loss and in your balance sheet and even your statement of cash flows. So these are things we want to pay attention to. And when you know how to get that, how to extract that data and what to do with it, whoa, like the financial clarity it creates is amazing. So we talk about all those things, even personal finance for entrepreneurs as a bonus lesson, just because I spent so many years coaching small business owners on their personal finances. And there are some different considerations than someone who just brings home a regular paycheck every month, right? So we talk about all those things so that you can really have an integrated approach to your business finances, grow more profitably with more confidence and financial clarity. No boring jargon, no confusing stuff. We keep it really simple because there's no need to overcomplicate this stuff. It is not rocket science. Like, I'm not that smart. I am not a rocket scientist, you guys. So, and you don't need to be one either to master your business finances and really thrive as an entrepreneur. On top of that, we have the Profit Club. That's my exclusive online or Slack community. I find Slack is like awesome, you guys. I love it. So we use Slack, but we do monthly trainings, weekly pop-ins, Q&A sessions. It's a great community. And that right now is included in Entrepreneur's Profit Playbook, no extra charge. $1,000 value you get in for a whole year for free. Basically, you get me as your CFO for a year. That's essentially what it is. So sign up for that. And oh, by the way, you guys, I know that it's really like we should be really careful about where we put our money. We should be really careful about investing. You should be investing in your business, but we should be doing it in a really discerning way. And so one of the things that I have done is I've created a double your money guarantee with Entrepreneur's Profit Playbook. So that means you can take the whole course. And if we cannot find you at least double the amount that you invested for this course, then I will refund every penny. So I just want to take the risk out of that for you guys because I know it's really, there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the market, but I truly believe that if you can get financial clarity in your business and know how to manage your business finances, that will give you the fuel you'll need to be successful this year. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm getting to the comments now. Andrew, you are awesome. Andrew is a great copywriter. Looking forward to the next time we talk, Andrew. Thank you, Harold. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time.